Oh my god, we're rolling, we're rocking and rolling. No, this isn't real. This isn't real. The Weekly Wigs. Welcome to the Weekly Wigs, guys. We're on it. Episode 1. It's the launch. I feel a bit nervous. A bit shaky, a bit of adrenaline surging through the veins. I mean, guys, what a time to be alive. What a time to be alive. Welcome to The Weekly Wigs, hosted by me, Megan Wigz. Thank you for joining me today on my inaugural podcast. Day 1, episode 1. Yeah, we bloody go, kids. Now, for a bit of context, I need to explain to you guys. There's a lot of explaining to do. There's a lot of context to fill you in on. We're going to do the whole shebang today, okay? We've got a lot to get into. It's going to be fun. I'm excited. I'm thrilled that you're joining me if you're watching this first episode. Let me get the admin out the way first, okay? We're new. She's a new girly pop on the scene, okay? We got social pages set up. We got Instagrams, TikToks. I'm trying to be a content queen out here, churning out the content. We've got the YouTube channel set up. This will actually be uploaded to Spotify. Fingers crossed. We haven't got to that stage yet, but we'll see. So I'm going to ask you all a delightful favour if you are sat here watching this. I mean, to be honest, if you're sat watching it, you've probably found it through my socials. If you are new here and you found me via some bizarre method, then please do drop those social pages a follow. Welcome to the gang. You are now officially in Yap City. I am the mayor, Megan Wigz, and I'm just very excited to go on this journey. I feel like this has been a very long time coming for me, and I should dive into a bit of a backstory really, and that's what I'm going to do today. Before I do that, I do just want to show, I need people to understand my current setup. I'm cracking up. Okay, I'm not gonna be a bit of a boaster here. I don't mean to be a bit of a humble brag here, but I think my little set looks nice, okay? This is actually my lounge. This is my flat. I think it looks cozy vibes. I mean, I love my flat to death. It's my humble abode. I live in Manchester. I love it dearly. But when I started up this idea of a podcast, I was like, girl, how are we going to create a studio? How are we going to make this look aesthetically decent? As someone who watches and listens to a lot of podcasts, always see these top creators with fancy studio setups, and I was like, girl, she doesn't have the budget. Mayor of Yap City does not have the write-off on a budget just yet. So she's doing it amateur style for now. And you know what? It's a girl with a mic and a dream, and that's all we can ask for at this point. So the current setup is this, okay? We've got a little ring light. We've got a little ring light in the background, little desk ring light. She's bougie, what can I say? I've got this glorious mic, which I'll just quickly lift up. There she is in all her beauty. Cost me 30 quid on Amazon. I'm telling you. Mic and a dream, that's all you need. And then my most recent purchase, which I am delighted to be reunited with the product of Apple. Now, she's an Apple girly, okay? We're either an Android or an Apple girly in this life. Did, at one point in my life, have a marvellous MacBook Pro laptop. This was back in the day when I started uni, aged me now, about like 10 plus years ago. And it served me well. It did last about a solid 10 years. And then I moved up to Manchester. We had a full haul out of all of my shit. And I was like, right, we got to figure some stuff out. I had to get rid of it. For the most part, I've just been using like a work laptop. So I was like, right, if we're going to dive into the pod world, we got to get some valid equipment. So she treated herself to a new MacBook Air. Whoa, she's bougie. She is bougie. And that's what I'm actually recording the video element of this podcast on. Which, do you know what? For a laptop webcam, not bloody bad. It's like 4K or something. So I'm kind of thrilled that I can use this as part of my setup because I'm not going to lie. This gal, like I said, she don't have the budget. Miss Mayor of Wigz Town, wherever we're calling ourselves. Yap City, that was it. Yap City. We haven't got the budget out here, okay? We're doing this on a small budget. But you know what? It's fine. It works. So there we go. We've got the mic, the ring light, the beautiful laptop. And then it's just, I wish I could show you the camera. Maybe I'll take like, let me take a little video actually, and maybe I can insert it. Just so you sort of semi-understand what we're working with here. So we've got you can't really hear me now, but so we've got a situation going on where we have mics propped up on a pile of books. Just random books of mine, journals, notebooks, reading books. Then the MacBook Air is basically sat on top of the MacBook Air box, a pile of printer paper, and then my printer. And then we got the ring. It's kind of tragic. This is truly the behind the scenes vibes. But you know what? It's how we're rolling out here. A girl's got to start somewhere, you know? So, we're going to start this. We're going to manifest this dream for the long term. I hope that I'm sat here in 10 years' time doing this podcast, yapping away. And maybe one day she'll upgrade to a studio. The great thing is that where I live, I'm very close to a place called Media City in Manchester, which is home to TV studios, the home of Coronation Street. It's got the BBC, and there's a lot of media companies here who do rent out podcast studios and hosting places. And again, if she had the budge, I would be going there. I would love to make it look like really super professional, like amazing lighting. But you know what? This is where we start, and I couldn't be more excited, to be honest. And you know what? Sometimes big budget isn't actually everything, because all you really need is a bit of soul, a bit of grit, and a bit of determination. And that's what I feel that I possess, and I'm ready to unleash my yap on the world. And so this all kind of ties in to my 30s, right? I'm 32. This is an era of self-discovery. I know it's a bit cliche, but it really is. And I'm having a hoot. I am having a hoot. It's a lot of up and down. I'm sure my girlies in the 30s can relate. It's a confusing time, this life, and we do live in a dark, dark world right now. More on that later, because there's a lot to discuss. But what I want to do is I want to create a space with this podcast that's just like a nice little cozy corner. We got the cozy candles going on, some blankets. I'm literally got a dressing gown over my lap right now. And I just want to have like a little chit chat, like I'm just chatting with friends. Because those are the type of podcasts that I thoroughly love listening to myself. And I feel like it's the type of content that you can just get out there on TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, that everyone can just generally relate to. Everyone likes a little bit of a chin wag when you're with your mates. And I kind of want that to feel like this. I want it to feel like a nice, tight-knit community where we can all connect and just shoot the shit over what's going on in the world. Now, some of those topics can be quite heavy topics. I'm not averse to talking about anything, to be perfectly honest. I'm such an open book. I'm very open with like mental health talks, wellness, personal journeys, story times, work life, all these things, right, that make us adults. But then I also like to just talk about really menial stuff sometimes, like pop culture and what's the latest goss and current affairs and music and things like that. So I'm really going to try and get this podcast to encompass a variety of topics. We're going to call this like the magazine style podcast. When I first started up this idea, I was having a little bit of a think about like, should I make it a niche thing? Because, I guess a niche makes it easier for you to market yourself in some senses. I mean, there's so many podcasts out there that focus on specific topics, some of them of which I listen to, like history podcasts or crime podcasts and those kind of stuff. And that's a very easy sort of branding route to take, isn't it? It's like, right, this is my focus. This is what I yap about. And that's all it's going to be. But I'm such like a jack of all trades. That's truly how I would describe myself in life in general. I like to do a bit of everything. I love to learn. I love to talk about all sorts of topics. And it's what I'm like with my friends and my family anyway. So I thought, why not just stay true, authentic to what I would talk about in daily life? So this is what it's going to be. I'm thrilled to have you along with the journey. I should think of a name for like listeners. This sounds like so like obtuse and a bit obnoxious, but like, how like singers have fan bases and names for their fan bases and things like that. I need to think of a name. So like I very much coined myself as like the mayor of Yap Town. Okay, that's the branding I'm kind of going with on this Weekly Wigz podcast. But it would be fun to like have a little name that we can chit chat together about, like my loyal servants. No, you're not servants and you're not peasants either. So we need something that's like affectionate. Residents. I was kind of thinking residents because it fits in with like being part of a city and me being the mayor of that city. Do you know what I mean? I'm just kind of like spitballing ideas here. But if anyone's got any fun little ideas like that or what you think would be a fun little inside joke with us, then let me know in any of the comments, whether that's the YouTube channel or the Spotify. It'll have options for you to comment. So this journey of making this podcast so far has been quite an interesting one. It has been a very techie journey. Let me tell you, it's no mean feat making a podcast. There are a lot of moving parts. It's not like I didn't already know this, coming from a background of having a radio degree and all the things involved in that side of the world, but it's been a really long time since I've delved in to such creativity and using all the tools. And like I said, I've got a new laptop recently, like getting back into all the different programs. Like, it's been a real blast from the past for me these last few weeks, like setting up the pod. I've been doing so much beta testing, setting up like 1,000 accounts. You have to set up so many things. I've got like a podcast account, we've got a Spotify account, we've got all the social accounts. I had to set up like an email just for the pod, like a business email. It's all going on. And so it's just been like quite fun having a little play around and experiment, because this is truly something that I thrive in. Creativity is very much my bag. I've always been a creative little girly. And just for a bit of a backstory, I guess, about me, I've always grown up really being into media, videos, music, singing. I think back to when I was in primary school, they did this thing, which I'm sure they do a lot in primary schools, or before you go to like big high school, where they sort of ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? You all get that question in life, don't you? And we had this sort of assembly. I can remember it so clearly. It was this assembly where we had to think of our profession, what our dream job was, and we'd put a little sign, probably make a sign on like word art with like what was that thing you used to use on like old computers, like pick art, the thing with the paper clip. What the bloody hell's that called? It's like a Windows thing. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. Clip art, I think that's what it's called. And you would just create like a little poster, and then I think we had to like have a group photo or something with our sign saying like, what do you want to be? And my first ever memory of what I ever wanted to be was, funnily enough, an illustrator, which is so hilariously random when you think about it. Like, what child at the age of like 8 or 9 is going, I want to be an illustrator? Like, most kids probably say like, I want to be a police officer or a nurse or an astronaut or a singer. No, not me. Megan Wigz wanted to be an illustrator. She wanted to get that pencil out and start drawing. And you know what? I think I was massively inspired by probably the books that I used to read as a kid. I have memories of reading a lot of Jacqueline Wilson books, as I'm sure many of us did in the millennial age. And there was one book that I have such clear memories about. It was called The Dinosaur Packed Lunch. I think that's by Jacqueline Wilson. And the illustrator was a guy called Nick Sharratt. And I just was obsessed. I was like, I love these drawings. I clearly was very artsy from a young age. I was obsessed with Art Attack. I mean, who wasn't? Neil on Art Attack, what a ledge. I have memories, and actually I've got pictures somewhere. It's probably like stuffed in an attic in my parents' house, but I used to be that girly that used to create, like on Art Attack, at the end of the Art Attack episode, and he would make a massive like picture out of, I don't know, household objects or anything he could find, and it would be like a giant life-size picture or something, right? And I used to do that in my bedroom, and I would take like my clothes and any items I could find and like create, say, a silhouette of a person or a picture of the sun or something. And then I'd be so proud of it, and I would like, say, stand on my bed and like take a picture from the sky down and be like, yeah, I did what I did on Art Attack. And I used to do it with my friends on my estate that I grew up on, and doing it with like leaves and twigs and anything we could find outside, and rocks and stones. I used to clearly be very creative from a young age, and the fact that I wanted to be an illustrator from the jump, I think is very symbolic of where we're at now and how that has followed me my whole life. I've definitely changed my mind many a time over the years. Like I said, she's a jack of all trades. I like a bit of everything. I've never really been one of those people that's been set on like a set career from the jump. In some ways, I've always been kind of jealous of people who have had such a clear vision from like day one, and they can just, boom, they achieve the goal, and then that's their career set up for life. But then also, on the other hand, I guess what comes with liking a multitude of things is a bit of variety, keeping you on your toes. So I think Illustrator was the first thing. Then I went through a phase. I have memory of when I was a teenager of wanting to be an animator. I was really obsessed with animation and stop motion animation. That was a moment. I mean, to be honest, they've all generally been in the same sphere of creative stuff, but like the industry maybe has just kind of changed. So we've gone from books and illustrations to animation. Then I think at one point I was probably more interested in making videos and movies. And then I went through a phase of like, I'm obsessed with like learning to DJ and music. Like when I was in uni, oh my God, I was like the DJ for the flat, always trying to do pre-drink DJ playlists. That was a phase. And I still really enjoy all this stuff, but it was never something that I was sort of locked on of like, yeah, I'm going to pursue a career in that. It's going to be great. And then when I left school, I really got into singing then and uploading stuff on YouTube because I guess that was the era of when YouTube exploded as a platform. And like I was in the generation that was literally bored into the YouTube platform. Like I'm talking the OG days of like cat videos and just silly stuff. And then really it was the uni kind of era when I was a fresher that I really felt just a bit of fun and confidence in uploading stuff to YouTube. If I'm being honest, I think a large part of that came from me leaving school. I probably never would have done it if I was still in school. I don't think I had the confidence and I was probably terrified that someone would bully me or something. So I just naturally probably just waited till I left school. And then that's when I started actually uploading singing videos. I've been uploading singing videos online for like 10 plus years now. And I'm not going to lie, I still don't really know what I'm at with it. Singing's been an interesting journey because I love singing and I literally love music more than life. And it's always been just a constant happy place for me. But I didn't really discover that I could kind of sing until much later in life. I always enjoyed singing, but like I was such a quiet, shy person for the majority of my young life. This is just obviously what I've viewed myself as. Maybe people who know me might think different, but I always thought I was such a little background floater, like just plodding along, get along with a lot of people, but like, oh, I'm not going to push the box. I'm not going to go outside the box. I'm not going to push the boundaries. I'm just going to stay quiet and stay back here. And I felt like that a lot internally. And like I would get a little bit loose and have a bit of fun like with friends when you're younger and you're a bit drunk. It's kind of like when you're 15, 16 and onwards and you start getting a bit drunk or whatever. Your confidence starts coming out a little bit more because the Dutch, what's that phrase? Not Dutch confidence. Oh my God, what's the bloody phrase about alcohol giving you confidence? Oh, I can't think of it. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. But it definitely gave me a bit of a spark. And I have memories actually of, I think maybe, let's say the age of anywhere between 16 and 18, when I entered the phase of like, we started going to parties and you start having a bit of fun with mates and you're drinking a bit. I started like really getting into dancing a bit. Like, I remember having like insane dance offs with friends at parties and in clubs and thinking I was the coolest thing ever. Would probably cringe to death now if I ever saw a video of that. But at the time, I was like, I'm hot shit. I'm doing my thing here, and like I think I'm pretty good. Oh God, love it. Oh God, no, sorry, I'm going a bit of a tangent here. I mean, this whole thing is a tangent, but I do have memories. I kind of in line with the YouTube era, because there was so much online to watch and so many videos. I got into a real rabbit hole of like dance choreography videos. I mean, you've probably all seen them before on YouTube. It's just like, it'll be a dance studio and a choreographer who films and creates a piece of choreography to like a pop song or something. And obviously, you know, uploads it online. And I just used to be obsessed. I mean, I low-key still am. I would happily watch hours of those videos to this day. Like, I really love dancing. And I was just transfixed. I was like, I'm going to become that. I remember learning the Slave for You dance by Britney Spears. I can still do it now. But when that unlocked in me and I was in my bedroom just looping the YouTube video like, I will learn this dance. And then I learned it, and then I remember doing it drunk at a party, and then people were like, "Woo!" I thought, I've unleashed the pop star in me. Like, who do I think I am? But it was hilarious because it was a version of me that I never knew and no one else ever knew. And it just kind of seeped out a little bit, and I was like, oh, okay, she's feeling a bit fruity, she's feeling a bit spicy, I'm going a bit wild here. But then, naturally, once the party's over, it would go back in its box, and that's kind of always been my vibe. Even though those things are like great loves of mine and loves and passions, it's just there's something about me where I've just never been able to like fully unleash the potential, which I know is there. And so a lot of that goes back to the singing. Like, I've just uploaded a lot of singing videos on YouTube for quite some time. I've recently transferred all of that onto TikTok in recent years because TikTok's kind of the platform to be at. And I've gotten into like live streaming, which has been like a very new journey, which has been very exciting. And it's actually been the first time in my life that I've been able to sort of essentially monetize like singing, which is kind of exciting. I guess that's always the dream. Being able to make money out of something you love. That's certainly kind of the goal with the podcast here. I would love to envision a world where I'm sat here giving you sponsored ads and she's making money and just like, I don't know, you never know. Podcasts can take you anywhere. You can do live shows with podcasts. There's so many exciting things that can come from creating online. And I've always been very keen to create stuff and just put it out to the world. I guess there's probably a part of me deep down that's just always thinking, maybe someone will see it. Someone will discover me and discover a talent. Like, it's giving like the Justin Bieber era of like, oh my God, he got discovered on YouTube? What? I think growing up in that like life and seeing that happen so much, there's always been a small part of me that's probably always dreamed of that. And obviously, as we know, a reality is that that's not like achievable for everyone in this life. And you know what? That's a harsh reality sometimes, but it doesn't stop us from dreaming and trying. So as I reach my 30s and I'm going through this just interesting transitional phase of my life, I've just reached a point where I just think, honest to God, life is so short. Like, why are we wasting it doing things that we don't love, that we are passionate about? And why am I wasting like any second of energy just not fulfilling like what I have within me, like my potential, my skills, my enjoyments? And I feel like for the longest time, and this probably happens to a lot of people truthfully in life, is, you follow the traditional path where you maybe leave home when you're 18, you might go to uni, get a job, and then you sort of fall into the adult life, right? Just the adult world, pay your bills, try and maintain a social life, maybe you find a husband, whatever, maybe you want to settle down and have kids. And that's completely fine. Like, people just want to do that too. Or everyone obviously wants to pursue creative endeavours or other things, but this isn't just specific to the creative world. But I feel like far too often, many of us in this life just settle. We just settle for like the basics in life. And maybe it's just a personal thing for me, but I've always been such an ambitious, driven person in all aspects of life, meaning even like traveling. Like, I've probably been fortunate and lucky enough to grow up in a family where I've been very lucky to have lovely holidays and lots of traveling in like younger years. And I think that instilled in me like an appetite and a desire to want to see the world. Like, there's more out there. There's so much happening. There's so much curiosity. There's so much curiosity within me to see and learn and do. And I think what I've found in myself for the last like 10 or so years, I felt like I lost that part of me in a sense. Like, it kind of semi-existed, but I have just felt, and I'm going to be really honest, I'm still kind of in it. Like, the truth of the matter is, I still work a full-time job for just like a corporation, and I'm doing what I got to do, and I don't mind my work life, but it's like, it's not my true passion, truthfully. It's not what I'd love to be making a living off. Do you know what I mean? And the fact that it's taken me this long to even get to this point of actually launching a podcast and doing something about it kind of proves my point that I've just been plodding along for a long time, I think. And I'm sure a lot of us can relate to that. But I think when you leave school and maybe you go to uni, sometimes depending on your upbringing or where you're from or whatever is going on around you, you're kind of just forced into whatever the path is for most young people. And for me, when I was in school, There wasn't even really any other talking points other than uni. Like, there literally wasn't. And to be honest, I'm probably going to do like a whole other episode on that in the future. Because one thing I am interested in doing on this podcast is also having like themed episodes. So that'll probably be on things like school life, story times, and things like that. I definitely want to do an episode on experience in uni and the entire path of universities. I want to talk about everything. I want to talk about politics. I want to talk about homeowning. Like, there's just so many topics to come, but I'm just trying to like touch on them lightly to give you a flavour and give you an idea of all the thoughts and feelings inside this little head. Anyway, what was I talking about before that? I fear this is going to be a problem with my podcasting presenting. I really do go on tangents. And I do struggle to remember what the hell I was talking about like 20 minutes ago. I'm looking now at this. I've been speaking for 30 minutes. What have I been talking about for 30 minutes? It's probably all going to be a little bit jumbly, but you know what? I think we're just going to accept that that's my style and that's who she is. And if you can somewhat follow along, then hopefully I'm doing a good job. I think the crux of what I've been trying to talk about is just why I'm here, what got us to this point, why we're doing the podcast, and obviously a little bit about me. I guess I can just delve into, maybe we'll do like a snapshot of my life so far, okay? So I am 32 years old. I live in Manchester. I am from South Wales, from a little town, a little village called Pontyclun. Big up my Pontyclun people. Grew up in Pontyclun, was there like pretty much all my life from, yeah, like literally until like the age of 18, until I left for uni. Had like, had a pretty normal standard childhood. I'm probably not going to sit here and go into an entire deep dive of my childhood, but I had a very great childhood, like a very fortunate, great family life. Honestly, probably a much more privileged family life than lots of other people. I didn't have to worry about anything. Like, my parents both worked. We had nice holidays. Like, I've been well brought up and well taken care of, and I'm very grateful for that. Went to school. I did school up until the age of 18. I stayed on for sixth form. I am going to get into a full episode about this in the future, about my thoughts on sixth form and college and school and my entire experiences there. But, we got through school as most high schoolers do, as most teenagers do. You get through the traumas of high school. It wasn't plain sailing. It wasn't perfect. And I didn't really love it all that much, but that's for another day. And then, you come to the end of high school and my path after that was straight to uni. Again, we'll do another full episode on just uni life because I feel like I've got a lot to unpack with my uni story. So then I went to uni. My first year, I actually went to uni in a place called Derby, which is like, because it's sort of like the middle of England, kind of the East Midlands, if you want to call it that. Didn't enjoy my time there. I've got a lot of story times and things to unlock there, but I just basically had a full mental breakdown. I didn't have a thriving time in my first year. I studied media production, and that was always something I wanted to do anyway, obviously creative stuff. But I had quite a shock when I went. I think moved far away from home. Obviously, that's, it was like 3 hours away from Wales. Never in my life had I lived away from my home. Didn't know what to expect. I felt like a keen bean. I thought I was prepared and ready for it. And then clearly I was not. So we had a bit of a rough first year, and then that basically resulted in me transferring back towards Wales. I then did my second and third year in Cardiff, and I switched the course to solely a radio course. It was still along the lines of media production, and I did do some other stuff that wasn't just radio, but it focused on radio. It's kind of mental to think that was a degree. I don't think it actually exists anymore, very sadly, but that is literally my university degree, is radio. Like, that does, I have had many a conversation in my life where people have given me perplexed looks when I say, yeah, I've got like a BA Hons in radio. You mean like radio that you just listen to, like with music and shit? Yeah. But hey, do you know what? That radio degree has brought me to this point, and really podcasting is kind of a branch of radio. It kind of falls under the same umbrella. So she's putting her degree to use, okay? She's putting it to use. I did have a really good time on that course, though. It was the best choice I ever made in switching to that university. I had an amazing time. I did really well. She got awarded Student of the Year. That was on my CV for the rest of my life. And And I excelled. I really enjoyed it. Like, it really unlocked so much creativity in me. And you know what? When I graduated, I was so determined that I was going to work in the, like, media industry. I thought, this is my path. I'm going to do it. And then once again, we had a bit of a shock reality when I became a university graduate. I'm sure many a university graduate can relate to this journey, but it's like, you have your hopes and dreams, you smash your 3 years, you get your degree, you throw your hat in the air and you think, right, let's go, kids. And then you realise, oh, actually, I kind of don't want to live with my parents for the rest of my life. I would like a job that pays me and like a bit of freedom, because it's that hard shock of reality when you leave your freedom and you're living with your flatmates or whatever in your final year. Then you have to go move back in at mum and dad's, and it's like, oh, damn, now I'm really isolated and far away from everything I've just known for the last 3 years. And it's a hard transition, but again, I'll get into that probably in a later episode when we talk about university as a whole. But had that experience, came back home, and I was very much a bit stuck on like, oh God, okay, what do I do? We're going to try our best here. We're going to just reach out to local media companies, try and find, I don't know, volunteer roles or whatever. Because unfortunately, one thing I unfortunately came to learn quite early on, which is a bit of a reality shock about the media industry, is that turns out it didn't really matter what bloody degrees or skills you had. It turns out all that mattered was who you knew. Man, I wish that was something I understood a lot earlier on, because I probably honestly could have got further much earlier on in life doing that. But you know what? It was just of the times. You don't know this stuff when you're younger. You just try to bloody stay alive. Do you know what I mean? I did a lot of voluntary work doing media opportunities. Like, I remember being a photographer once at some national lottery event in Cardiff. That was fun. I did like a whole 3-4 months, full-time job, mind you, full-time, 9 to 5, 5 days a week in an office, for free! Shocking. I'm sorry, that is so exploitative. I was like a fresh 21-year-old ready for the working world, and all I could get was a free opportunity, milking me for all my resources, and I was good in that job. It was basically a PR and events marketing company in Cardiff, and I will say it was an invaluable experience. I really enjoyed that work. It was a bit challenging as a young girl, having to work with older people in a small office, and a bit oh, how do I make friends? I can't really make friends with these older people, and we don't have much in common, and they're still my boss, and it's all a bit scary. So I didn't stay there super long, mainly because there was just a bit of an off vibe, I think, with dynamics in a workplace, but also mainly because I was like, girl, I can't keep working full-time for free and I'm still living with my parents. I want to get out. I want independence. I want a real job that pays me. And I think in my hopes and dreams, I thought that by doing all those free opportunities and those free volunteer roles, that was going to push me somewhere. And I unfortunately just did not have that experience. It didn't open any further doors for me, which I found so frustrating, because I was like, what's the gal got to do out here? I'm working for all you people for free. I'm trying to build up my little media CV here and show that I've got the skills and yada yada. And I kept applying endlessly to BBC jobs and was always rejected. And it was so frustrating. And you know what? I think it was just a point in life where I was like, I can't do this much longer. I want to pursue media and creative things because it's what I like doing and it's what I'm good at. But I also can't just never-endingly live with my parents and not be making any money. So that's when I had to enter the real adult world. And that's really been my life, for the last 10 or so years now. I've been to so many different jobs. I started off doing retail. That was a real knock down to earth. Ooh, retail, girlies. You need a badge of honour if you've ever worked in retail or hospitality for that matter. I did a bit of nightclub work when I was in uni, and that was a time. I feel like I can get into that again, probably on the uni episode, but went straight into retail fresh from those volunteer opportunities, and it was awful. So I didn't stay very long in some of these jobs because I think I had a realization early on in life that like, no, I think I'm a bit better than this, and I say that with no disrespect to anyone who does work in retail and hospitality, because I know that those jobs are actually really hard. And do you know what? You can actually make a great salary if you're in like managerial, much higher positions in those industries. Fantastic, like absolutely fantastic. But just for me personally, knowing like what skills I personally possessed and what I wanted to do with my life, I felt so frustrated in that scenario because I was like, I'm just like, this is not me. Like, I'm better than this as it being like, yeah, and bear in mind, I wasn't even working full time in retail. I was probably working part-time hours, like 4-hour shifts, and that's all I could get. I was like, this is ridiculous. It's still not even really ticking the box of like giving me a decent salary. So it was just a bit of a nightmare. So retail was not a fun time. It didn't last too long for me. I think I was maybe there for like 6, 7 months. I went through the traumatic experience of the Christmas season in retail. And my God, and I'm going to say the company because they don't actually exist anymore, so no one's going to come for me. But it was Mothercare. If you're from the UK, you'll know that Mothercare was like a staple brand for many years. Kind of says what it is on the tin. It was like a baby mother shop selling like prams and baby clothes and all this stuff. And my God, I have such awful memories of that place. I hated it so much. I remember working on Boxing Day shifts. Oh my God, the Boxing Day sale. That's like the Hunger Games, that shit, okay? Nobody cares about you one bit. It's like, get out of my way. I'm coming through all the rails. I'm going to take everything off the shelf and just dump it on the floor. My entire job's responsibilities for that day of shift was to just sweep around the aisles and pick up everything from the floor. I am not joking you. That was my entire job. I didn't even go on the tills. I didn't get any responsibility for the rest of that day because so many people are savages, absolute savages, and they would come in and they would just rip things off the hangers and just dump them on the floor, and I was just Mop It Up. Mop up, pick it up, put it back on the hanger, place it back in the I was like, girl, I don't get paid enough for this shit. I truly wasn't getting paid enough for that shit. So that was grim times, okay? I knew I needed to get out of there, and I also kind of wanted to go more into like, I guess, more office hours as well, because a lot of the retail stuff is obviously quite antisocial hours, having to work on weekends, and I was really trying to edge towards getting more experience in like a Monday to Friday kind of vibe. So that's when I entered the world of call centres. Whoa! We'll do a whole episode on that too, but call centres, again, not for the weak, but I will say I could not have asked for more invaluable experience from call centres. I really, truly think I picked up most of my probably work skills and honestly life skills from spending about 2 or so years in call centres. Like, it is a savage place and it's quite a harsh environment in some ways, but it can also be really rewarding in the type of things that you take away from your time there. So I went through a real journey with that, but what that allowed me to finally be able to do was to move out my parents' house, earn some proper money, and then I moved back with my old flatmate from uni. Shout out Liam. And we got a flat together down Cardiff Bay. And the rest was history. So that was like, how old would I have been then? I was probably circa 23, 22, 23 at that part of my life. And then basically from that point onwards up until this last year, I was living in Cardiff for that whole time. I was working in different jobs. I kind of moved quite a lot, sometimes not for my own choice, just because of the nature of call centres and them moving you to different contracts and all this kind of stuff. But I worked for a few years in call centres. Then I was getting really sick of call centres because, unfortunately, call centres also came with very antisocial hours, having to work like 2 till 11 and work on Sundays and Saturdays. And I was like, girl, I'm really getting bored of this. So that's when I moved into like actual offices, like a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. Then I worked for a pension company. Oh my God. It was so boring. I'm sorry. I've just done a lot of like admin-y, random kind of jobs for all sorts of companies. customer service, just all your like basic standard work skills. I feel like I've kind of done it all at this point. And when I was in that pension company, I was really getting bored then. And we're probably like a good 5, no, maybe 4 years into adult career life, like post uni. I'm thinking my age must have been circa 25, something like that. And I just remember hating life in this pension company. I was so over it. I literally used to spend my time at my pensions job, actively in work, applying for other jobs while I was there. Because they gave me no work to do. I was like, this is ridiculous. I was opening letters. They had me being a fucking post lady out here. Like, can you just open up all the letters? How old school is that, by the way? A company so large, I'm not going to name them, but a company so large where they literally used to operate on like an old school postal service, like physical letters in the post. And my job was to take stacks of letters and just, with one of those letter knife things, and just slice them all open, pile up all the envelopes and throw them in the bin. Then I had to categorise all the letters types and all the correspondence from customers and then put them in different piles. And then maybe I had to like log some information onto oh, it was so boring. It was so boring. And it was usually such a small stack. Like, it wasn't that many because obviously at that point, like, who's fucking posting letters? Do you know what I mean? A lot of people are picking up a phone or sending an email to a company. So she was in the trenches at that point. I was like, girl, get me out of this joint. So I was tittling away at my job and I applied for a job in higher education, doing events. And I thought, you know what? I enjoyed that time of my life when I was doing that free job that included events. Albeit that was more, media style events, which would have been my preferred path. But at that point, I just had to take what was on offer, So she applied, she got the job, and now this leads us to here, 7 years later. Can you believe I have been in that job for nearly 7 years, which doesn't even feel real. And obviously in between that, we've had like a crazy pandemic. I'm sorry, what was that like? We may have to do a full deep dive on 2020 because that was a time. That was a time! And basically, that job is now coming to an end. And now I'm in this like totally new chapter. It's all a bit crazy. This last year for me has been a bit mad because I was, like I said, I was doing all these jobs. I was just living in Cardiff all that time, kind of just plodding along. You kind of just get stuck into the rut, if I'm honest. And I'm not like going to sit here and act like all of those years I was like depressed and like hated my life, because I didn't. Like, you just kind of go with the motions. And I had probably many fun memories of my time in Cardiff. But I think it had been a long old slog. And I'd moved to my own flat towards the latter end of that journey, and I was really happy with my own place, and that was a great part of the journey as well. But I think I was just getting a bit sick of Cardiff as a whole, because I'd been there such a long time. It's always been like my hometown city anyway, because I grew up not super far from Cardiff. And I was like approaching 30s. I think at this point I was maybe like 27, 28 when the pandemic was happening. And I started just, and you know what, funny enough, I do think the pandemic is what actually really spurred me on to want to change. I think when you just have all that time and you just sat there on your own, just bored out your arse, just like, well, this is a bit strange, isn't it? What do we do now? And I just had a bit of a desire in me again. Like, I felt like all that desire and passion that had just kind of flitted away over the years, it just kind of started creeping up again. I thought, you know what? I need to like switch something up here, because I don't envision myself staying in this flat and in this area for like much longer. I'm getting a bit bored. So then I embarked on the journey of coming to Manchester, which I will say is like one of the best decisions I think I ever made. Like, I really enjoy Manchester, and I'll go into like a full episode about my journey with that, and buying and selling and moving day and all of it, because it's been a time. It has been a time. And it's crazy to think that I've now been here for like just over a year. And when I came up to Manchester, I think it just gave me a little bit of separation for what my life probably was previously. And it's this new chapter, this new adventure, and just fresh thoughts and feelings. And I was like, I've got plans. I've got goals and ambitions. And I just want to like go crazy and do it all. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do. And I do feel really proud of myself for just like being determined and sticking to goals, because I've been really good at that the last year. One of those goals was to get a new job, which, girl, that was a traumatic time to get through. I have been applying for jobs for the last year. It has taken me an entire year, and just a bit more actually, almost an entire year, and about 60 plus rejects to finally have received a new job offer, doing another events role for a different company. And my God, I thought I wasn't going to see the end of the tunnel. I really didn't think I was going to see the end of the tunnel. And it was getting a bit depressing times. I was getting so frustrated and I was losing my marbles. I was like, I've come to Manchester, like I'm ready for a new job. I want to meet people up here. I want to go on this journey on the side as well with podcasting and creating and all the rest of it. I'm trying to like juggle a lot of things at once, obviously, but I was like, it's got to happen. Like, it just has to happen. And thankfully, it bloody did, because my God, what a journey we've had to get to this point. And honestly, not to be too woo-woo, but I am accrediting the recent change and the recent job offer and even this podcast thing to this little bad boy here. Oh my God, I'm sorry. I think I'm going to get a bit woo-woo, because tell me why. And bear in mind, at the time of recording, what date is it today? I am recording this on the 8th of October. This will get probably uploaded maybe a week later. But we're in October 2025, and back last month, it was sometime in September, had a little holiday with my family, and I think it was the week before I went away. I got a little takeaway, got some Chinese food, and I had a little fortune cracker, and I was like, oh, fortune cookie, whatever you call them. And this fortune cookie... I will read you the fortune cookie note, okay? It says, "You won't be bored for long. New adventures are on the way." I was like, let me just try and show it to the camera, if you can see it there. It might be backwards, I'm not sure. But anyway, I've kept this little piece of paper because I'm telling you, something in the universe changed. The minute I opened that little fortune cookie, I took a little picture of it and thought, oh, that's cute. I kind of need this energy in my life right now. Like, at that time, I was still endlessly applying for jobs and still not getting anywhere and just thinking, oh, come on. And I was also going through a bit of a phase of struggling a little bit to figure out like a plan with this podcast and just trying to figure out logistics of like, how am I going to do it? I got to get a laptop. Am I going to be able to afford it? And all this kind of stuff. I go on my little holidays. I come back, I think, not joking with you, like the day after I come back from the holiday, I get an invite for interview for this job. I was like, what? But bear in mind, an entire year of rejects. Not a single invite to interview, just endless rejects. And I was like, and with all due respect, she's a skilled worker. I've worked in so many damn places. Job market, awful. The job market is awful. But I just was like, no, surely not. Like, what's this? All very weird. And the fact that it was obviously my first ever interview, doing all that time, I then proceed to have the interview, and she gets offered the job straight away. I said, what do you mean? What do you mean it's my first interview? And I've got the and I got the job from what? No, I'm sorry. And then look at this now. Like 2 weeks later, got a laptop and she's launching a freaking podcast. The fortune cookie has not lied. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna be woo woo about it, but I think there's something magical in this, because I don't understand how the energy has shifted in just literally the last month. How bizarre. And it literally all started happening after that. So she's hanging on to this little keepsake. I think this might be my little good luck charm going forward. I guess I like to believe in stuff like that sometimes. I'm not really like a super spiritual person. I wouldn't say I like, I'm not like a crystal girly. I'm not really thinking of witchy things like that. But I do have a bit of a faith in the system of karma, the universe. I guess you could say that's spiritual. I'm not really sure, but I have always been a big believer in kind of what you put out there does come back to you. And in the same sense, like if you're being really negative and all you do is project negativity out there, then that's probably all you're going to get back. So I don't know, something just kind of shifted. And now here we bloody are. And I've been yapping for up to an hour, which is honestly probably the quota for a solid podcast episode. So thank you very much for listening to me yap on about my life, a little bit about my background and what led us to this point. I know I probably went on like 1,000 tangents, and I hope you were able to follow along somehow. I guess I'll be finding out for myself when I go back and I edit this podcast, and let's just hope it's worthy enough to upload. But I do hope it is, and I'm really excited about this journey. I'm feeling really like committed and ready to churn out the content. So I've decided, and I hope this will still be accurate when this all gets uploaded, but my plan right now is I'm going to upload episodes every Wednesday. Wednesday is going to be my planned day of releases. For the next sort of 2 or 3 episodes, if you're watching this and you are going to tune in to future episodes, I'm probably going to do a lot of like pre-recorded stuff just to get me going, get the ball rolling. They may not include like specific references to current cultural things going on, just because I don't want to like date the episodes in that sense. Going forward, when I get into more of a flow and we start doing weekly recordings, one thing I would like to do a lot more is sprinkle in a bit more current news and affairs, have little segments probably chatting about like things going on in pop culture that week or anything happening in the news or politics and all that kind of stuff. So those will be things to come, along with some more themed episodes. Like I said earlier on in this episode, I'll talk a lot about like my university journey and just my journey to Manchester and moving house and all that kind of stuff. So if you've got any fun topics and fun ideas of maybe episode ideas or like fun little Q&As and things, please feel free to put some suggestions in any comment box on any platform. I would love to have some interactivity as part of this podcast. That's like a really big part of the community feel that I want to create with this platform. And I already am very lucky that I get to create that on my TikTok live streaming. Do drop me a follow on TikTok if you are a scroller. I will definitely keep up with live streaming and those kind of things on the side too, because I know some people that have come to this podcast have known me from that. So this doesn't mean that I'm just like fully cold turkey in it on the singing and all the other stuff that I do online. But I would just love you to come along for like this entire journey of everything that I'm doing. I can't promise you perfection. I'm sure this will be a little bit of trial and error and a bit of an up and down roller coaster vibe of a journey. I am working full time alongside creating a podcast, live streaming, and trying to create other content and TikTok. So I am a one-woman show. I hope that I can try and achieve as much as I can from everything that I possess. And I hope that you stick with me. So yeah, on that note, I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, whatever time of day you may be watching this. I'm so excited for what's to come. Do make sure to drop me a follow on all my social pages. And I will catch you in the next one, honeys. Bye!